Thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure. My name is Emanuele, but you can know me as Evil Dead Italia probably. And first of all, I beg your pardon because I am Italian and my English is still is in process to be to be improved. So sometimes I lose it. I start
That's
stuff
all good.
stuff
I'll,
like that.
I sometimes I talk a bit too fast, so I'll try and not talk too fast. But yeah, that's all good. You do what you got to do.
Thank you very much. So, first of all, my congratulations. Your movie broke a lot of records. I mean, first of all, the more than 100 millions in the box office. Now the record even in the HBO Max, and even a particular record, the one you have not to get any kind of censor in your movie. I mean, you are rated R, but you get no censoring. That is a particular record for an Evil Dead movie. So my question is, I mean, what did you expect this kind of success for this movie?
Question. It's a good question. I think you always hope, of course, like when you make anything, you're setting out to try and make something that you hope lots and lots of people are going to want to watch and they're going to want to see. We obviously are all living in a time where getting people to go to the cinema or people wanting to go to the cinema is harder than ever than it was, say, 10 years ago when you didn't have the same challenges from all of the different streaming subscriptions that people have at home. And therefore, it's easy maybe on a Friday night to sit on your sofa and press a button as opposed to, jump on the bus or take a walk or drive the car to the movie theater. So that was always in my mind that whatever we would make, I wanted it to be something that was a big screen experience and that people would really feel the need to go watch it on the big screen and watch it in a dark room with lots of people. And thankfully, that was the reaction. And then I think the thing I'm probably most proud of is I'm like you, I'm a massive fan of the franchise. I'm a massive fan of Evil Dead and since I was a kid. But I also wanted to bring in a new audience. And I think the box office success that we have had, which is just a little under 150 million around the world, shows that we brought in some new audience as well. Not just people like you and me that are always going to go and watch an Evil Dead movie, but actually some younger audiences that it might have been their first introduction. And that was something that was on my mind at the beginning of the process, was thinking of, say, my own nieces and nephews who are like teenagers and how I wanted them to have the experience of watching a movie like this for the first time. And thankfully, that seemed to be something that happened. So it's not quite a record, but it's definitely something that I'm proud of, is that there's lots of new Evil Dead fans in the world now.
Thank you. So regarding the rating, it was intended to reach that kind of result. I mean, it's hard to get it without removing too much stuff from your initial idea.
Yeah, no, it wasn't difficult. Like I actually, you hear stories about having to make editorial changes. There's too much blood or whatever. I just got word that we got an R rating. That was it. There was really, I've got a vague memory that maybe I was asked, and I couldn't put my hand on the Bible and swear to this, court, but I feel like maybe I had to maybe just change like remove 18 frames of something around the wood chipper scene. Maybe. I need to check with somebody if that actually happened. Maybe it was a dream, but I have a weird memory. But that was it. We didn't get hit with an NC-17 cert, therefore we weren't fighting to get it to become an R rated. Like what I don't know how your certification works in Italy. What was the rating in Italy?
In Italy it was like PG-14, so 14 can be at the movie with the parents. And
so okay.
What I see in UK, it's 18. So the movie has different rating.
The same here in Ireland. The film was in 18s. And actually, quite interestingly, because there was two trailers initially put out. There was the red band trailer and the green band trailer. And the green band trailer was banned from being played in front of movies below 18s in Ireland. So we actually had to make a couple of changes. So the trailer in Ireland is actually unique in comparison to the rest of the world, that we actually had to change a few shots and substitute some things to actually get the green band in cinemas with movies below an 18 certificate. Obviously, it could have played with 18s. The red band can play with 18s, but we needed the green band to go in front of movies like Megan or, other horror movies that were out at that time that bring people to the cinema and that people are checking out. So yeah, there was that. And we also had a battle because in Ireland and the UK, the film was advertised on the side of buses. We also had a battle with the artwork for that as well, which was deemed to be too threatening. So in the end, we actually couldn't get our artwork. The artwork was banned in the UK from going on the side of buses. And then we were able in time to get an alternate artwork to put on buses in Ireland as well. So yeah, we'd a few little battles along the way, but all in all, thankfully, we were able to have the platform to promote the movie as much as we did.
Well, this is very, very peculiar, very interesting. So you are both writer and director. And Mommy is with the Maggots Now, in my opinion, is one of the best quote of the entire franchise for me. I think it enter in the wall in the heaven of the quotes of the Evil Dead franchise. So my question is, what is the process between writing and having the final script with talking between actors and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, the writing process, I was actually asked in an interview like last week. I was asked about that line and I still haven't done it. I said in the interview that I wanted to go back and check if Mommy's with the Maggots Now was in the first draft of the screenplay. I think it was, or certainly there by the second draft. The scene was there. And I knew that although this film is dark and it's scary, I wanted there to be a little bit of like dark comedy to it as well. But that dark comedy comes from the psychology of what this possessed mom, what the Deadites like to do, which is to play psychological games with innocent people, which is the thing that I actually love. Like, I had a lot of fun making the movie gory, but for me, I had most fun getting those type of lines right, like Mommy's with the Maggots Now and the titty sucking parasites line as well, which, when you write them, sometimes those sort of lines scare an actor because they're like, wow, I've got to pull this off and make it convincing. But in the end, Alyssa really understood, and she understood the character, which was that this demonic force that's possessing her is in control. Therefore, she never needed to oversell those lines. So like Mommy's with the Maggots Now is said in a way where she's almost feeling a little sorry. That was the idea. So Danny says like mom, and he's hopeful in the way he's confused by what he sees, no idea what he's experiencing. And she kind of says it almost this like, oh, I'm sorry, Mommy's with the Maggots Now. And that was the delivery that worked for the line. And the titty sucking parasites line, we tried a lot of different ways. And then in the end, I remember, I actually was only having this conversation with Alyssa yesterday because we were recording some stuff together. And, that was a tough one for her. But what I said to her in the end, and sometimes direction is this simple, I said, just say it. Don't sell it at all. Just say the line. That's it. Just say the words. And not in a way, because the point was, doesn't need any color. The line is everything it needs to be. So just say free from all your titty sucking parasites and we go. If you oversell a line like that, that's when it can become cheesy quite quickly. And I was protective of those lines because I knew they were important to the movie. Those moments were particularly important.
Yeah, I agree. They worked so well. I mean, they delivered, I suppose.
Thank you.
And so, talking about the Deadites of your movie, I mean, there is this old quote from Fangoria.
Oh, nice.
Can they be stopped?
Can they be stopped? Yeah.
Yes. In some way, I think the Deadites of your movie, they cannot be stopped. I mean, it's very hard to stop them. And so I think they are the strongest, the toughest one of the whole franchise. Because, for example, I give you an example. In Evil Dead 2013, there is a Deadite that die with just one hit in the head, but just one hit. These Deadites are very resilient. And so what was your initial idea about the design of the Deadites in terms of their strength, their weakness, etc.?
I guess I always see them as in control, like that force that's there, and I see it as the force that then takes over. For me, if we take Ellie as an example, she's a strong mother, you know what I mean? And she's got power in her own ways, and she's got confidence. So like then subverting all of those good things into the bad makes her like a really dangerous, when you turn all that inside out and make it bloody and make it possessed. And then just within, I think one of the fun things with Evil Dead lore is that there's a looseness to it. You can play around with that toolbox in different ways. And so I just, in this movie, I thought, you know what, there's no stopping these. And it's even at the very end when Jessica enters the parking lot after the carnage at the wood chipper, kind of none the wiser initially, but then even when you see little bits of flesh on the ground and they're flickering, like that was intentional. We had all of that said, and I was like, let's get a little wind machine. I want those things to feel alive, because, and then we see it, the force, that's the whole idea. The force comes at her from all these angles. It's like she's possessed, and we realize, wow, the beginning of the movie was the start, because the evil can't be stopped. And I just thought that was fun, you know, that line that Father Littleton says on the vinyl, which is, you know, all you can do is, you must run, all you can do is run. And to me, I'll tell you where I took that license from in my mind. When you go all the way back and watch The Evil Dead, the original one that's on your t-shirt right there, before they even meddle with anything evil, before they find the book, anything happens, you sense the force in the forest when they're just driving in the first place.
Yeah.
Like it's already there. It's more about how it's pulled out and how it behaves. So from my point of view, that evil force at the end of this film is still there, it's still alive, it could still possess somebody else. Maybe all that flesh could come back together, because if you give it enough power, if you put enough innocent people around it, it's going to come to life and it's going to play its games.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely, it works. And I like even that line. I mean, even the audio editing of that LP running,
the vinyl
I mean,
thing.
the vinyl thing. Yes, I love it a lot.
Thank you.
So I've seen a lot of your behind the scenes video, and the first thing I think when I see those videos is how much was challenging. I mean, directing the movie, having all those effects. I mean, there is a lot of rehearsal, a lot of training, physical training for the actors. Yeah. They act without the set. My question is, what was for you the most challenging shot you have to, if you remind it? And maybe you saw something like, oh my God, I cannot do this. I have there is the risk I don't deliver it, or stuff like that.
It's funny, like sometimes the most challenging shots are not the things you expect them to be at all. Sometimes they're very, very simple things. And quite often on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, the things that actually become really challenging you thought were very simple. And then sometimes the things that you thought would be very hard days work out a little easier. And I think part of the reason behind that is quite often the things you're most frightened of and terrified of doing are like, that are most challenging. You've thought about more, you've rehearsed more, you talked about rehearsal, you've practiced all of those things. In terms of like a specific shot that was very, very hard, I don't think there was any one shot that was, this is really challenging. I do remember getting the lighting correct in the scene where Danny hits Ellie just after she's got the tattoo gun at Bridget, and Danny hits Ellie into the kitchen, and just getting the darkness just right so you can just about see her outline. Like that was a difficult kind of setup. But the thing that I always come back to really is what I call the marauder, the monster at the end of the film, the amalgamation of family. That all of that was hard. So like the very first marauder shot that we did is the one where it comes out of the smoke and runs. Yeah. And it worked. We knew we got it. It worked. But man, was it hard to get it right. Like at that point in time, achieving that shot was 8 months in the making, because we'd had 3 months of preparation to start shooting the movie. We had filmed for about 10 and a half weeks. We then had a COVID lockdown for 2 months. And then we went back and we finally got to shoot. Oh, no, actually, sorry, it was before the COVID lockdown we did that shot. So it was basically 6 months of preparation. And then even on the day, you're still trying to figure out how to make it work. Will it work? You have all the puzzle pieces. You have the contortionists. You have the special prosthetic suit. You have the puppetry. You've got the physical effects. You've got the lighting. And that was one where, as a director, sometimes you find yourself sitting behind your monitor and hiding ever so slightly, because there's nothing you can do to actually speed up the process, make it happen any better, make it look any better. You've given all of your opinions and you're kind of crossing your fingers. So that was a hard shot, because so much time went into it. It's a little bit like the Blood Elevator splashdown.
Yes.
With months and months in preparation, but we got it in one take, thankfully. But then strangely, sometimes it's just like, it can be like the smallest things. There's a little moment that always sticks out in my head when Beth and Danny are looking at the book, when Danny has showed Beth the book and Cassie's at the door. And just as she gets grabbed in the throat, it cuts to Danny and Beth, and they turn around. And then there's one action shot where they run through the middle of the apartment. And it's just this quick whip pan. And we just couldn't get the timing right. It was just hard, you know, and that's the sort of thing that's just, you planned it, it's coming up on your shot list, and then you're doing it and you're like, oh, something doesn't feel right. The energy doesn't feel right. And sometimes, as I said, it's those little things that actually trip you up. Whereas the whole peephole scene where Ellie kills the neighbors was like a dream. It was one of my favorite days on the shoot, yet it was, in theory, a really difficult shot to achieve.
Yeah, I really loved that one. I think that is one of the highlight of the movie. The people.
Fun one. It was a fun one to shoot. Really fun.
And you talking about COVID. So how much the COVID impacted on your job? I mean,
not basically not at all, and then completely. So filming in New Zealand. I arrived in New Zealand at the beginning of end of February 2021, the beginning of March. And, you know, at that point, we were 1 year into COVID. So we were still having outbreaks around the world in different countries. And at the time in Ireland, when I left, we were kind of in a semi-lockdown state. There was definitely restrictions to how you could live your life. And I got to New Zealand and I went into managed isolation hotel for like 2 weeks. And then when I got out, it was like going back in time or going to another planet, because there was zero COVID in New Zealand, no cases. They hadn't had any cases in New Zealand at that point in time for maybe like 7 or 8 months. And when they had them before, it was like a teeny tiny outbreak. So it was like we all got conditioned, and it was so weird. I was in the middle of Auckland. There was these huge boat races on with thousands of people attending. And the America's Cup was on. That's what it's called, the America's Cup. And I was like, wow, I just got to walk through these crowds, whereas we've been so used to being, so quickly got used to that. And the point is, that's how the set was. It was like normal. There was no, yes, of course we were smart. If anybody sneezed, you got a COVID test. We would still manage the actors, but we didn't have to work with the same level of restrictions in other countries where there was bubbles on set and all that sort of thing. So there's zero COVID. And then we were on set with 8 days. So we'd filmed for about 51 days. And we had 8 days to go. And at about 3 p.m., someone said, oh my God, have you seen the news? There's there's a COVID case in New Zealand. And very quickly, by 6 o'clock, the government had instituted a 2-week lockdown. So we all had to pack up, go back to our apartments. And that lockdown lasted for 8 or 9 weeks. So we were completely shut down. We couldn't work. We couldn't see people. You couldn't even get a takeaway coffee. Their lockdowns were like hardcore. And that was very challenging. So as I said, no impact really. Then this massive lockdown. And then when we returned, then we had to have very, very special conditions to actually film. And we had so much of the Marauder to do, which was already challenging. And then we had to find ways of doing the Marauder at that point without having people too close together. And it was tough. It was really, really, when COVID hit us, it hit us really, really hard.
Yeah, I can relate. I mean, I live in Italy, and here we closed we were closed at home for more than 2-3 months, and then it was it was a nightmare. Yeah. So the Book of the Dead design is really cool. Is your idea? Is there something you talked about with the prop masters, and you come? I mean, how did it come out? The thief on the coaster.
Yeah. Well, like I'm very specific when I write because I direct also. So I do try and visualize what it is that you're going to see on screen. So the screenplay described the book. as you see it on screen. So it talked about the veins, it talked about the teeth, it talked about the way the teeth behave and the blood dropping on the book, and described what the pages were like. The joy of that is you can only write so much in a screenplay, and then you bring a great creative team on. You bring the art department, production designer, the art director, the props master, who was amazing. And then as we work together, they take my ideas and we make it even better again, take it further. And the process of creating the book was about 3 months with a team of people. So like my first day in preparation on the movie, which it was 12 weeks of preparation. My first day, it's like we had a meeting about the book, and we had a meeting about the book every day, all the way up. And then we needed the book on set, maybe day 8 or 10, 9, 10 of shooting. The book was still being worked on, right up till it's brought to camera. And then even when we shot the first day with it, we kind of looked at the footage and thought, we could tweak a little and improve it a little bit and, beat it up a little bit more. But what we would do is, as a process then, was take the ideas that I've written down and then go further, look at references. And it was all handmade. Every single page has been hand aged. Like every single page in the book is unique in that way. And then there was versions of the book. So there's like, I've got the hero book, and there was maybe 3 hero books. The one I have was the kind of most complete, survived the movie best. And then there's a couple of other copies. And then there's like a version that's completely solid that doesn't open. So a character could pick it up, but it won't suddenly flop open or fall. Then there's a special one that's just a piece of the book for the teeth to open, where we had this like lever that you would pull, so you could only film it from a certain angle. So there was probably in total maybe 6 or 7 books to achieve all of the different things that were possible.
So something like a dream for an Evil Dead fan to be there. You see all these books.
It's in my drawer. I'm still waiting to find the right case to put it in. It's sitting in my drawer right now, wrapped in bubble wrap.
So I ask very particular information. I mean, in the movie you see something like 6 pages, maybe 7.
Yeah.
But there are others that was never shown, or the book is some pages and then empty pages.
So it's a little bit of both. There's no empty pages, but what we did is the pages that we see, and I would have filmed a lot more of the book, and then you make your selections. I always had there was key hero images we put more detail into. So the ones that you see in the film had more man hours, more people working on it to actually make it really camera ready. And then we'd have works in progress of other ideas that we never saw through, that we'd finish a little, and we'd put that in as a filler page. And then some of the images are repeated in the book. So it's not like every page is a unique image, but the book is completely finished. There's no empty pages, because we had the scenes where the pages are moving, and that's all practical. It's not digital. That's the book. And it's 2 crew with air blowers off camera fighting each other for supremacy with blasts of air to make the pages keep on going like different directions. That meant the book had to look convincing from page 1 to whatever it is, page, I don't know, 150 or 200 or whatever's in the book. So yeah, it was all detailed, but we did cheat a little by just repeating things or slightly changing them a little bit. But there's probably, if you actually look at the end credits of the movie, there's images from the book for all of the titles that are there for the different, producers and cast and things. And they're pretty much all of the hero images. And there's probably even a few more. So we probably created maybe 20 to 25 very unique kind of camera ready images for the book.
That's great. Probably I will see something on the vinyl. The vinyl is going to come out. There is a lot of pages inside the vinyl.
I think there is. Yeah, I'm looking forward. It looks cool. I haven't seen a copy of the vinyl release yet. but I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Same here. It's going to be released end of July, but in US. So for us, unlucky in Europe, probably there will be something to wait for.
I hope someone puts one in the post for me.
I hope so for you. I mean. And talking about the vinyl, the soundtrack is by Stephen McKeon, right?
Stephen McKeon.
And yes, he worked with you even in All in the Ground. So
yeah,
what is the process in which you decide how to the music, the soundtrack have to be?
Yeah, like myself and Stephen, I said, worked on The Hole in the Ground, and we hit it off very quickly creatively. I actually on The Hole in the Ground had more time, because sometimes when you make an independent movie, you have longer gaps between things happening. And Stephen is such a passionate musician and such a passionate composer that he'd often ring me and say, you know, that piece we were really happy with, this was on The Hole in the Ground. And I go, yeah, yeah. And he go, I have a new idea. Come out to my studio. So I jump in a car. He lives out in the countryside, like an hour out of the city from Dublin. And he plays something else. And the next thing we get wrapped up for another day, experimenting and trying things. With this movie, we had a really good amount of time because I actually had Stephen involved while we were still editing the movie, and he was proposing temporary tracks and he was talking to our sound designer. So I didn't just deliver the movie and go, score it for me. He was involved. He saw early cuts so it could get into his imagination. And then we kind of got to work. And I only ended up in the end being able to visit his studio 2 or 3 times because, talking of COVID, I caught COVID when we were hitting the final 2 weeks of composing music. So I had to actually sit in my apartment, get him to send me new cuts and versions of the tracks. And I thankfully had like a really good Dolby Atmos setup at home. So I had a good speaker situation. And then with COVID feeling like low energy and gray and just like not good, I'd listen to all the music and then like write out notes and send them back, and he'd do another version. So even though he was only an hour up the road, the last 2 weeks of the music creation for this for me was at a distance. But then obviously we got to go on and record it with the live orchestra, the live musicians, live singers. And you can do a little bit of tweaking there and have some more input, and then how you mix it and all of that. So it's great. But like, Stephen's a big horror fan. We get on, we become friends. He knows what I like. He was perfect for this because he's kind of brash and loud. And I said to him, look, I want this score to have real impact, because I'm going to make the movie visually very impactful. And I want to double down with the music and hit you even harder again. And that's something he's very good at.
Cool, very cool. I have just a couple of questions remaining for you.
Sure.
The first one is a very trivial question, but I suppose that you're something like my age, so probably you have seen the Evil Dead movies mostly in the same time I've seen them.
Yeah.
So except your movie, obviously, because you did it, so it's your creature. What is your favorite Evil Dead movie in the franchise? Have you one of them that you love more?
Yeah. It's Evil Dead 2 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason, again, it's just to do with inspiration. So when I was young, my dad showed me the Evil Dead and showed me Evil Dead 2 on VHS when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And Evil Dead 2 was the one that stuck more because of the madness in it. It was the one that I kind of watched more and more. And I love the darkness. I love so many aspects of all of the movies. But weirdly, and whether people see it or not, Evil Dead 2 is the one that probably had the most influence on Evil Dead Rise. Although Evil Dead Rise is not as maybe cartoony and as over the top, but I wanted to capture that energy that you have in Evil Dead 2, where it's so kind of relentless in terms of how it goes. So yeah, if I was sent to a desert island and it's like you can only bring one Evil Dead movie with you, I'd bring Evil Dead 2. I wouldn't bring Evil Dead Rise because I've seen it too many times now.
Cool. No, for me, it's the first Evil Dead indeed. But because I love more the horror. But I mean, excluding horror, I mean.
Okay. Okay.
The last question, so I can leave you go. Can you, if you can disclose something, I mean, what are your next projects? Are you working already on something? Not as necessarily the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Even if I would be happy if you work on Evil Dead again, because I like your style and etc. And the world you open it up. I mean.
Yeah, I can't say too much. Obviously, there's some information out there about a project called Thaw that I'm working on for New Line Cinema. I had a great relationship making this movie with New Line Cinema. I'm a massive fan of the history and culture of that studio and what they do. So I'm very excited to be working on that project. And then, like, because I'm a writer, when I went to make Evil Dead, there was projects that I had put in the drawer and then I gave up, not gave up, but I invested 2 years of my life to making. So I'm also like interested in those projects. And when it's funny, when time goes by, you write something and then you go make another movie for 2 years, you come back and you pick it up and you feel differently about it. And maybe you think that you want to do something a little different with the idea. But I've got like, you know, Thaw is a very important project to me, and there's a really good opportunity that could be the next thing that I do. I also obviously continue to have discussions with the guys in relation to the Evil Dead world, and I think there's an opportunity for lots of stories to be told, and maybe it won't be me, but maybe it could be me too, or it might be me in a little while. So there's definitely some fun games to be played in there, especially with the characters, you know, with Beth and with Ellie and Cassie, and you know, there's things to discover. But like some filmmakers will say, this is the passion project. It's what I want to do next. And I just don't kind of work that way. Once something is ready, if I can get it greenlit, and if it's ready, it means I've worked very hard and I'm passionate about that project. If I can get it greenlit, then it's like, let's go make a movie. For me, what I want to do is, making films is hard. Building a career is hard. Getting from short films to my first feature film, getting from that independent feature film to making, you know, a Hollywood movie. For me, what I want to do in the next 4 or 5 years is hopefully make 3 movies, and not to just make one movie. I really want, there's a lot of stories I want to tell. I've got some TV ideas as well. I have a psychological horror TV show based on lots of Irish mythology and folklore. And then I have another really, really fun family horror comedy show that I'm very passionate about as well. So I'd love to see all of these things come to life. They probably all can't. But I think what's next for me will become clearer later this year. And hopefully I'll be shooting another movie next year.
Oh, cool. So I wish you a lot of luck for your projects, because you deserve it. You delivered a really good Evil Dead movie, and we are, as a fan, we are very thankfully to you for your Everson job. So
thank you.
So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It means a lot for me, and for the fans they are going to listen to this. I'll probably upload this in some days, because I need to put subtitles, you know, for Italian people.
Yeah, of course. And well, thanks for your questions. Thanks for supporting the movie, and whatever I bring to the screen next, I hope it gets you excited too.
Thank you. I will surely support your next work. And I don't forget the poster. I have found the tool, so I'm going to send you I'll send you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for that. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Yeah, take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.